It was November 14, 1977, and Muhammad Ali was visiting Children's Hospital of Philadelphia on what was supposed to be a routine charity appearance. He had made countless hospital visits over the years, bringing smiles to sick children and hope to worried families. But what happened in room 247 that gray November morning would challenge everything doctors thought they knew about the power of human connection, the mystery of healing, and the inexplicable bond between a champion and a child who was fighting the greatest battle of all. The baby's name was Sarah Michelle Chen, and at 6 months old, she weighed only 9 pounds. Born with a rare genetic condition called Tay-Sachs disease, Sarah had been given perhaps weeks to live. The neurological disorder was slowly destroying her brain, and her tiny body was failing despite every medical intervention the hospital's brilliant staff could provide. Dr. Margaret Williams, Sarah's attending physician, had been caring for terminally ill children for 15 years, but this case was breaking her heart in ways she hadn't expected. Sarah's parents, David and Lynn Chen, had exhausted their savings flying specialists in from around the world, trying experimental treatments that offered little hope, and spending every waking moment at their daughter's bedside. What made Sarah's case even more heartbreaking was her personality. Despite her condition, despite the pain she must have been experiencing, baby Sarah had the most expressive eyes anyone at the hospital had ever seen. She seemed to look directly into people's souls, as if she understood far more than a 6-month-old should. The nurses fought over who got to care for her, not because she was an easy patient, but because something about her presence made everyone feel more human. When Muhammad Ali arrived at the hospital that morning, he was supposed to make brief visits to 12 different rooms, take some photos for the hospital's fundraising materials, and be on his way to his next appointment. At 35, Ali was still boxing professionally, though many people close to him were beginning to worry about subtle changes in his speech and movement that would later be diagnosed as Parkinson's disease. Ali's entourage included his manager, Herbert Muhammad, a hospital administrator, and a photographer who was documenting the visit. The plan was simple: spend 5 minutes with each child, bring some joy into their day, and move on. It was a formula Ali had perfected over hundreds of similar visits. But when they reached room 247, something changed. Sarah was lying in her specialized crib, connected to monitors and feeding tubes, her parents sitting vigil beside her. David Chen, a software engineer, looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Lin Chen, a mathematics professor, was softly singing a Chinese lullaby that her own grandmother had sung to her as a child. When Ali walked into the room, both parents looked up with the kind of exhausted gratitude that families of terminally ill children develop, thankful for any distraction, any moment of normalcy in their nightmare. "This is Sarah," Dr. Williams said quietly, introducing Ali to the family. "Sarah is 6 months old, and she's been fighting very hard." Ali approached the crib and looked down at the tiny child. What happened next surprised everyone in the room, including Ali himself. Instead of the cheerful greeting he usually offered to sick children, Ali became completely quiet. He stared at baby Sarah for what felt like minutes, though it was probably only seconds. Sarah, who had been largely unresponsive for days, suddenly opened her eyes and looked directly at him. "She sees me," Ali whispered, more to himself than to anyone else in the room. Without asking permission, Ali reached into the crib and gently placed his large hand on Sarah's tiny chest. The baby, who had been agitated and restless, immediately grew calm. Her breathing, which had been rapid and shallow, seemed to slow and deepen. "Can I hold her?" Ali asked Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams hesitated. Sarah was extremely fragile, and they usually limited who could handle her. But something in Ali's voice made her nod. Very carefully, with the gentleness that surprised people who only knew him as a fierce heavyweight champion, Ali lifted Sarah from her crib. The baby, who weighed less than some of Ali's boxing gloves, seemed to fit perfectly in his powerful arms. What happened next would be talked about in medical circles for decades. As Ali held Sarah, something remarkable occurred. The baby's heart rate, which had been erratic for weeks, began to stabilize on the monitors. Her oxygen saturation levels, which had been dangerously low, started to improve. Most remarkably, Sarah began to make soft cooing sounds, the first vocalizations anyone had heard from her in over a month. Dr. Williams watched the monitors in disbelief. In 15 years of pediatric medicine, she had never seen anything like it. Sarah's vital signs weren't just stabilizing, they were improving in real time as Ali held her. "What's happening?" Lin Chen whispered, afraid to hope but unable to ignore what she was seeing. Ali began to speak to Sarah, not in the playful baby talk that usually adults used with children, but in the same conversational tone he might use with anyone else.
"Hey there, little champion," he said quietly. "I hear you're fighting a tough battle. I know something about fighting. The thing is, you gotta believe you can win. You gotta know in your heart that you're stronger than whatever's trying to beat you." Sarah's eyes remained fixed on Ali's face as he spoke. The baby's breathing continued to improve, and her coloring, which had been pale and gray, began to show hints of pink. "You know what makes a real champion?" Ali continued, gently rocking Sarah in his arms. "It's not about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about not giving up when everything looks impossible. It's about finding that little bit of fight left in you when everyone thinks you're done." Dr. Williams couldn't take her eyes off the monitors. Sarah's brainwave activity, which had been showing the progressive deterioration typical of Tay-Sachs disease, was displaying patterns that didn't match anything in her medical textbooks. "This is impossible," she murmured to herself, but the evidence was right there on the screens. Sarah's neurological responses were not just stabilizing, they were showing signs of improvement. Ali continued to hold the baby, speaking to her about championships and fighting and never giving up. "The thing about being a champion," Ali said to Sarah, "is that it's not really about you. It's about showing other people what's possible. Maybe that's why you're here, little one." As Ali spoke, something even more extraordinary happened. Sarah reached up with her tiny hand and grasped Ali's finger. For a baby with Tay-Sachs disease, this kind of coordinated movement should have been impossible at her stage of the condition. Over the next hour, as Ali continued to hold and talk to Sarah, the baby's condition continued to improve in ways that defied medical explanation. Her muscle tone seemed to strengthen, her reflexes began to return. Most remarkably, Sarah began to respond to her parents in ways she hadn't for weeks. When Lynn sang her lullaby, Sarah turned her head toward her mother's voice. When David spoke her name, she made eye contact with him. "What's happening to our daughter?" asked Dr. Williams. "I honestly don't know. This shouldn't be possible." Ali had been scheduled to spend 5 minutes in the room. He had been there for over an hour, and he showed no signs of wanting to leave. "Doc," Ali said to Dr. Williams, still holding Sarah, "what exactly is wrong with this baby?" Dr. Williams explained Tay-Sachs disease in terms that a non-medical person could understand. She described how the disease progressively destroys nerve cells in the brain, how it's almost always fatal, and how there was no known cure or effective treatment. "Almost always fatal," Ali repeated thoughtfully. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means that in extremely rare cases, maybe 1 in several thousand, children live longer than expected." "Well, little champion, sounds like you need to be that 1 in several thousand. You think you can do that?" As if in response, Sarah made another soft cooing sound.
Dr. Williams called for an emergency consultation with the hospital's chief of neurology, Dr. Robert Steinberg. When Dr. Steinberg arrived and saw Sarah's current readings compared to her baseline from that morning, he was speechless. "Margaret, are you sure this is the same child?" he asked, checking the charts multiple times. "I've been watching this happen in real time for the past hour," Dr. Williams replied. "These readings are impossible, but they're accurate." Dr. Steinberg ordered a complete neurological workup to be done immediately. As technicians prepared the equipment, Ali continued to hold Sarah, talking to her about fighting and winning and never giving up. "Mr. Ali," Dr. Steinberg said, "we need to run some tests on Sarah, but we're wondering if you could stay while we do them. Her vital signs seem to be most stable when you're holding her." Ali looked at his watch. He was supposed to be at 3 other events that day, but he made a decision that would change several lives. "Clear my schedule," he told Herbert Mohammed. "I'm staying with Sarah." The neurological tests revealed something that shouldn't have been possible. Sarah's brain scans showed not only a halt in the progression of her disease, but actual improvement in some areas that had been damaged. The nerve cells that should have been continuing to die were not only surviving, but showing signs of regeneration. Dr. Steinberg had been studying neurological diseases for 20 years, and he had never seen anything like it. "This doesn't happen," he told Ali and Sarah's parents. "Tay-Sachs disease doesn't reverse. Damaged nerve cells don't regenerate. What we're seeing here contradicts everything we know about this condition." "But it is happening," Lin Chen said, tears streaming down her face as she watched her daughter responding to stimuli that had produced no reaction for weeks. "But it is happening," Dr. Steinberg agreed, "and we need to figure out why." Over the next several hours, Ali remained with Sarah while a team of specialists ran every test they could think of. The baby's improvement continued, and her parents began to hope for the first time since her diagnosis. As the day progressed and Sarah's condition continued to improve, Dr. Williams developed a theory that she was almost afraid to voice. "In medical school," Dr. Williams told Ali, "they taught us that healing involves much more than just medicine. There's something about human connection, about hope, about the belief that recovery is possible, that can have measurable physiological effects." She gestured toward Sarah's monitors. "What we're seeing here might be the most dramatic example of that phenomenon that's ever been documented." Ali listened carefully. "You're saying that somehow, me being here, me believing she can beat this, might actually be helping her beat this?" "I'm saying that the human capacity for healing is still largely a mystery to us, and sometimes when we encounter a mystery, the best thing we can do is not try to explain it away, but instead try to learn from it." Over the next 3 days, Sarah's improvement continued at a pace that astounded her medical team. Brain scans showed continued regeneration of nerve tissue. Her muscle tone and reflexes continued to strengthen. She began to gain weight for the first time in months. Ali visited the hospital every day, spending hours with Sarah and her family. Each visit seemed to coincide with measurable improvements in Sarah's condition. 6 weeks after Ali first held baby Sarah, Dr. Williams delivered news that no one had expected. Sarah's latest brain scans showed almost complete regeneration of the nerve tissue that had been damaged by her disease. "I have been practicing medicine for 15 years, and I have never used this word to describe a patient's recovery, but what has happened to Sarah is a miracle." Sarah, now weighing a healthy 12 pounds and hitting all developmental milestones, babbled happily in her mother's arms. When she saw Ali, she reached for him and made the cooing sounds that had become her way of greeting him. Sarah Chen's recovery became one of the most studied cases in pediatric neurology. Medical journals published papers about the Chen phenomenon, named after the little girl whose impossible recovery challenged medical understanding. Ali continued to visit Sarah regularly as she grew from a baby into a toddler who showed no signs of her former condition. She began calling him Uncle Ali, and her first coherent sentence was, "Uncle Ali, champion." The impact extended far beyond one family. Word of Sarah's recovery spread through the medical community. Parents of children with terminal diagnoses began reaching out to the hospital, hoping for similar miracles. Dr. Williams and her team developed new protocols for pediatric care that emphasized the importance of hope, human connection, and emotional support alongside traditional medical treatment. Studies began to show measurable improvements in recovery rates when these approaches were combined with conventional medicine. Years later, when Sarah was a healthy, brilliant child with no trace of her former condition, scientists began to understand what might have happened in room 247 that November day. Research into the mind-body connection revealed that profound emotional experiences could trigger the release of healing hormones and growth factors that could promote cellular regeneration and repair. Ali's powerful presence, his unwavering belief in Sarah's ability to recover, and the hope he brought to her family had created a biological environment that supported healing. What Muhammad Ali gave Sarah wasn't magic, Dr. Williams would later explain. It was something much more powerful and meaningful. He gave her absolute, unwavering belief that recovery was possible. And sometimes that belief can literally change the biology of healing. Today, Sarah Chen is a healthy, accomplished young woman studying pediatric medicine herself, inspired by the dedicated doctors who saved her life and the champion who held her when she was dying. She has no memory of those early days, but she carries with her the profound knowledge that sometimes the greatest healing comes not from medicine, but from human connection and hope. Muhammad Ali never spoke publicly about what happened in room 247, maintaining that Sarah's miraculous recovery was her victory, not his. But those who witnessed it knew they had seen something that fundamentally changed their understanding of healing, hope, and the power of believing in miracles. If this incredible story of hope and the mysterious power of human connection moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this with someone who needs to hear about miracles happening in unexpected places. Have you ever witnessed something that challenged everything you thought you knew about healing and hope? Let us know in comments below and ring notification bell for more inspiring stories about the power of believing in impossible things.